Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Left Coast Live. I am your host, Dear McBusiness, America's WASP. That's white Anglo-Saxon Protestant to you. Today, I'm going to be giving you some comments about a favorite MSNBC Morning Joe guest, none other than James Carville. Let's have a listen. They are at the Clinton Library, of course, because who doesn't love the Clintons?
Mansion, many questions surround the future of the Democratic Party. And recently, during the 20th anniversary of the Clinton Library in Little Rock, Joe Scarborough sat down with Democratic strategist James Carville, as well as former Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, and asked them both how Democrats can rebuild the party's relationship with voters.
You all have been in politics most of your adult life. I have for most of my adult life. We understand that elections are won and lost, and another election is coming right away. But James, I want to talk to you about the fact that right now there's so much second guessing, so much fighting, there's so much carping going on. If you go out and make a suggestion, there are going to be 1,200 people yelling and 1,200 people on the other side. What's your advice to not only Democrats but independents and Republicans that want to see a different outcome 2 years from now?
We're definitely.
Listen to the word salad. Listen to this word salad
in terms of this campaign.
Listen to this
1,200
absolute
people on the other
garbage
side.
answer.
What's your advice to not only Democrats but independents and Republicans that want to see a different outcome 2 years from now?
We're definitely. The first thing I would do in terms of this campaign, when the plane crashes, they don't say, let's look forward and forget about it. They say, no, let's go find out. Maybe the flaps were set at the wrong angle. Could have been a maintenance problem, or was it? So you find out. And I don't think we need to, but I think we need to find out. I think it was over $3 billion spent on our side. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What got wasted? Where was the area of concentration? I mean,
You've had 2 months to digest the results of this election, and you're still saying we need to reflect. You should have already reflected. You should have already come up with a game plan for how to get it right next time, or at least be talking about what that game plan looks like. Instead, it's like, oh, well, we've got to reflect. Yeah, that's a step forward from the idea of moving forward without knowing where the hell we're coming from. But this still isn't even close to good enough, y'all.
with a military operation, if you got the title table wrong, they're going to come back and investigate and say, what did we, you didn't figure this out, or where the troops are going to land, or anything else. I mean, you represented the Naval Air Station in Pensacola. You think if they fly one in and drink, how many investigations they're going to have? Because you got to find out where was the bug and fix it. So I do think some analysis, a retro look at what happened in 2024 can have some value.
Well, then what is that?
Terry,
so what is that analysis? Yeah, we should reflect. We should figure out what went wrong so we can do better next time. That's a winner's mentality. This is the losers versus winners dichotomy that we talk so much on here. Yeah, he's asking us, he's advocating for the DNC to do a little bit of reflection and learn from their mistakes, but he's not talking about what those mistakes actually are.
What Democrats, independents, Republicans who want a different outcome 2 years from now, what do they need to do now?
We got to talk to people at home about the issues that they actually care about. Bill Clinton always talked about quality of life, jobs, personal income going up, and we're missing it. I mean, obviously that message did not resonate in the last presidential election. We got to talk to people about how you make their lives better, quality of life, fixing their roads, giving them health care, great education.
Whoa. Giving them health care?
Income up.
Giving them health care?
That's what our party's been about in our whole history. I mean, obviously that message did not resonate in the last presidential election. We got to talk to people about how you make their lives better, quality of life, fixing their roads, giving them health care, great education, personal income up. And that's what we've been about. That's what our party's been about in our whole history.
So he said personal income about 3 times. He said health care and education once. It's just ridiculous. These Clintonians, I can't stand them. They act like they were such a great presidency, and it was absolutely miserable. Bill Clinton was a horrible president. And until the Democratic Party comes to terms with that, we can't really move on. We have to come to terms with the failure that was the Clinton presidency and the damage that it did with capitulation to conservatism.
And we can't get off in these side tangents and let other people define what your message is. Stand up and fight for what you believe in. And we got to do that harder.
And by the way, James, you know, when I ran, a lot of people told me, you're way too conservative for me, but I'm going to vote for you anyway because I feel like you understand me, you understand my family. You know, sometimes there's so much talk about ideology. But you look at Fetterman in Pennsylvania. You look, you know, Democrats want to see in Arizona, Gallego. He's progressive.
No,
but people weren't thinking he's progressive. They were thinking he gets me, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that what it's about?
It is. And Rubin, excuse me, Senator-elect Gallego was the first person I heard him say, I don't know anybody uses the term Latinx. I think he was born in Mexico. If he did, it was, you know, 2 feet on the other side of the border. But the biggest problem
So this is a good example. Latinx is something that hasn't taken off, and let's let it go. I don't know any people from south of the border that have any problem being called Latinos. They like being called where they're from, obviously better, like Guatemalans or Venezuelans or whatever, but they don't mind being called Latinos. So this is a point that is valid, but it's not terribly relevant because Kamala wasn't using the term Latinx, and that wasn't a big appeal. She wasn't making these identity politics appeals. She was making the politics of civility appeals. And haven't you had enough of Donald Trump? You really want to go around that merry-go-round again? That's what her pitch was.
we have, Joe, two large numbers of people in this country, they don't even think about Democrats. They just think we're an urban old party. Terry was governor of Virginia. I have a place out in the Shenandoah Valley. If you talk to them about Democrats, they would be confused. And we have to reconnect with rural, small-town, mid-city America.
Okay, I don't necessarily disagree. There's two things that are wrong with that. One is how. Just how are you going to get to that demographic of rural, small-town, mid-city America? Okay? I think the answer is generational resentment. You need to get those people to look at their parents and say, fuck you. You did this to us. And they did. They did. The baby boomers took as much as they could for themselves, every opportunity they could. Instead of investing in education, healthcare, environment, cleaning up elections, no, everything got worse under their leadership. Okay? So if you're going to go after rural and small town and mid-city America, Democratic Party, you better get down with generational resentment, because that's the only way you're going to transcend the identity politics culture that you've already established. Secondly, these voters are very difficult to acquire in contrast to the urban and suburban voters that they lost in this election. Remember, the most important number in this election is 6.3 million. That's how many fewer votes Kamala got in 2024 than Biden got in 2020. Where did those votes go? Some of them probably went Republican. Most of them just didn't show up. That is the analysis. They haven't even come close to that analysis.
You know, you look at this, I don't know what it is, a tragedy in New York about this United Healthcare, but what it is exposed that people do not like these health insurance companies. There should be a bill right now to introduce the Healthcare Insurance Access Act of 2025. All right? If you just tell people you see them,
right?
I know your struggles. You're gonna do better.
And Terry,
So why didn't you do it when you were working for the president? Why didn't you advocate it when you were working for Hillary? Why wasn't Hillary talking about a better program than Medicare for all? I mean, these are dinosaurs, people. This is what I keep trying to tell you all, is that these people are so far past their prime, they can't see it in the rearview mirror. We need huge, systemic, generational change within the institution that is the DNC if it is to be salvaged. This is where I disagree with a lot of lefties. A lot of lefties have said they are done with the DNC. They're moving on. They have no hope for the DNC to deliver on its promises or even make bold promises to begin with. That's their attitude. Me, I still have hope. Call me naive. Call me soft. Call me a fool. But I do believe that the DNC is the only thing that's big and established enough, and by extension powerful enough, to counteract MAGA GOP, because the MAGA GOP is evil.
You know this. If there's a Republican governor in the Deep South that says, I don't want the Medicaid money, what he's doing is telling people in rural America he doesn't want money to help their hospitals. He doesn't want money to help their moms and dads in retirement homes. I mean, shouldn't this be a message that's easier for Democrats to tell people in rural America?
For 4 years as governor, I pushed Medicaid expansion. Whether you like it or not, at the end of the day, you get $4 billion back into my state of Virginia, save rural hospitals, help people get health care who have a pre-existing condition, whatever it may be. It's a simple issue. People want to be healthy. You know what? Life's not complicated. You know, they want to make sure their kids have a quality job with nice income in it. They want to make sure they get in the roads and the roads work. They get health care, great education. This is not rocket science. And that is what we should be talking about. That's our history. As governor, this is all I focused on every day. How's personal income, how many jobs we create, are the roads working? That's why I actually love governors, because, you know, we've got to balance budgets. We don't have deficits. We run your health care, we run your education, build, clean your roads. That's what we need. Talk to people about the things that they're experiencing every single day. This is the greatest country in the world. We got to bring people together.
James, give people out there hope that don't have hope.
It used to be the greatest country in the world. It used to be potentially the greatest country ever, but we missed our chance on investing in the future. We've missed many chances, and now we have to take dramatic action to regain any kind of hope that we will reassert ourselves as the preeminent socio-political power in the world and actually be a force for good, as opposed to just corporate imperial interests.
Hope right now.
Well, because, you know, we're Americans and we think we don't have hope. It turns out we do have hope. And I think we can be an effective opposition party, because that's what we are. We don't have any power. People have to get over that. And it's hope when the Democrats say, we're going to run everywhere and we're going to talk to people everywhere, and we're not just a coastal party. And we lost some great senators, Manchin, Casey. We lost
He just called Joe Manchin a great senator. Let's hear that again.
We're gonna
we
run
lost
everywhere.
some great senators. Joe Manchin is one of those senators. Give me a fucking break. Are you serious?
And we're going to talk to people everywhere, and we're not just a coastal party. And we lost some great senators, Manchin, Casey.
Unbelievable.
We lost Senator
Tester, Sherrod Brown.
Tester, Sherrod Brown. I mean, we lost some. We lost these seats, and what I continue to hear right now, the Democratic brand is not a brand to run on, but a brand to run from, and we have to change that. We have to make our party brand better. We have real work to do there.
So, Mike Barnacle.
Yeah, so how? So this is what they do, guys. This is the superficiality of mainstream media. They give you Doritos when you think you're getting steak, okay? They give you the superficial, we got to reflect. We got to talk about these important issues like healthcare and education. They don't talk about policy proposals that actually mean something to people. They don't talk about how. They give you the what, they never give you the how.
Well, an illuminating conversation there. What's your sense there? How do Democrats make the Democratic brand better rather than a
Here
brand
we go.
to run from?
Here's a good question.
Well, first of all, Jonathan,
What do you got,
there's no
Barnacle?
way I can come close to the expertise of James Carville and Terry McAuliffe. I mean, one's been on the ballot, one's run successful campaigns for the last 40 years. But I will tell you this, you're just
That's called the fallacy of credibility. Just because someone was a successful, quote-unquote, governor and James Carville was a successful political consultant for the Clintons does not give them intellectual credibility here. They are not of this time. They are of the Cold War. They are not of the post-9/11 digital generation. They do not appreciate the world in which we grew up. And that is a huge reason why they are so destructive within the intelligentsia of the left.
observations, just sidewalk observations. The Democratic Party has to do one thing above all else, and that's get younger. Get younger,
Hey, there we
more
go.
approachable, talk to more people. Forget the focus
No, it's not about talking to more people. It's about how you talk to them. Let's hear what he
groups.
says.
If you're running for office, whether it's state representative in your state or the United States Senate or the presidency, forget focus groups. Get out of your car and walk the sidewalk and talk to human beings about their problems.
Or find Gen Z and millennial influencers and go on their shows and ask them what they're saying. I mean, we have great people on the left with Mike Figueredo and the Humanist Report and Kyle Kulinski and Sam Cedar. Sam Cedar's been around forever. Why is Sam Cedar not getting more politicians on his show? Why? Because they're afraid of him. Because he's going to ask them to answer these questions in a real way, not just give you the superficial, I'm at the Clinton Library. Wasn't it so great when we had Bill Clinton? And let's listen to James Carville because he worked with the Clintons. That's how superficial their analysis is. Get rid of guys like Carville, okay?
And here's what you'll find out. America is worried about a couple of things. If they have families, they're worried about, they hope their children don't get sick. They hope their children get a great education.
Student loan debt?
America is about the future. It's not about the past. It's about the future.
Okay, I hate this archetype. It's about the future. It's not about the past. In order to have a better future, you must reconcile with the mistakes of the past. This is the winner-loser dichotomy. A winner doesn't just win all the time. Sometimes they lose. What do they do when they lose? They learn from the losses. Again, he's tripping over what's already been said, saying it's not about the past, it's about the future. What are you talking about? Trump just got reelected. All they did was talk about how much better off they were 4 years ago when he was president, and that worked. So, again, this analysis is just more superficial bullshit, not worthy of your time. So that's why I'm watching it for you.
They have to address the future in solid, sensible ways that are meaningful, from the price of gas to the price of eggs to the price of a college education. Talk about the things that impact people's lives. That's it.
So let's now go to someone who's got.
So why don't we
some
hear about Medicare for all, or investing in education, or figuring out where that $1 trillion missing from the defense budget
is how to do this. Democratic
putting that to
Congressman
some good use.
Tom Suozzi of New York.
This guy.
Let's bring him into
now
the
this is
conversation.
why I
The
really want
congressman
you
has
guys to
a
watch
new
this, because
opinion
this is
piece in the New York
unbelievable.
Times with the
Look at
headline,
this.
"Let's try
This
something different
is
in how we deal
unbelievable.
with Trump." And in it, he writes in
Tom
part this,
Suozzi,
"As a Democratic
fucking
member
loser.
of Congress, I know my party will be tempted to hold fast against Mr. Trump at every turn.
As well we should.
Uniting against his bills,
Yes.
blocking his nominees.
Yes, we should.
And grinding the machinery of the House and the Senate to a halt.
God willing.
That would be a mistake," he
Nope.
writes.
Would be the
Only
right thing
by
to do.
working together to find compromise on parts of the
Yeah,
president-elect's
compromise
agenda
sounds like a loser.
can we make progress for Americans who are clearly demanding change in the economy, immigration, crime, and other top issues.
Okay, so when you hear this guy talk, notice how he talks about fighting and fighting for their constituents, and also notice that he's talking about compromise. That's the end result, is compromised policy, which is weak policy, that is ineffective policy. It's a policy that maintains the status quo. So just listen to this asshole.
He continues, "This time in history is both a warning and an opportunity. My New Year's resolution is to rise above partisanship and bickering, reject extremism, and embrace common sense and keep building relationships with Republicans and Democrats to get that done." So, Congressman, let's dive into this a little bit more. But let me ask you this first. What do you say to members of your party who experienced the 4 years of Donald Trump, then his post-presidency, and very much view him as an existential threat to the nation's democracy? How do you then tell them, well, he's still someone we got to work with?
Listen, we've been attacking the President-elect Trump, for years, and everybody's dissected everything he said. They've criticized everything he said, and he won. And he's not running for president again. So the next 4 years, they're going to be looking at the Republicans, and they're going to be looking at the Democrats. They're going to say, who's fighting for me? Who's looking out for the things that I care about? Same thing that Mike Barnicle just said, same thing that McAuliffe said, Carville said, exact same stuff. Talk about the kitchen table issues that affect everybody's life, and work on figuring out how can we get stuff done to make your life better. I'm fighting for you.
The most important word in all of artistic expression is specificity. The most important word in political discourse now, I'm telling you, is specificity. Listen to the specifics of what he's saying, because it couldn't be more general.
If the Republicans today, are voting, they can't choose a speaker and all they're doing is fighting with each other, the people are going to be like, well, what about me? What are you doing for me? So we have to start focusing on what the people want. As Barnacle just said, go out and talk to people and find out what the people are talking about and respond to what they care about.
Congressman,
And it's just more generalities. It doesn't lead to any kind of specific course of action here. Go out and start. Of course, we're talking to people. Kamala was talking to people. What, she wasn't talking to people the way you thought she should? Yeah, I agree with it. She shouldn't have freaking been using Liz Cheney to communicate with the American public.
I basically think that you raise really. It's one thing to say, oh, well, we'll of course, we'll collaborate on reasonable policies that help the American people. But those policies have to also be accepted by the other side, by the Republican Party. Do you have any confidence that whoever is the speaker, that the Republican Party is going to be talking even the same language that you're talking now, and is not going to be pursuing an extremist agenda that, in fact, Democrats have no choice but to oppose?
Gene, that I can't control what they do. I can only control what I do, and we can only control what we do. We're reaching out our hand and saying, hey, let's work together. Let's try and accomplish things together. If they say, no, my way or the highway, forget about it, I'm just going to do what I want with this crazy right-wing agenda, then the people are going to see that. But we as Democrats are saying, okay, let's try and work together to...
Okay, so this is funny because they have no respect for their base, and yet they're saying that people are going to pay attention and place the blame in the right spot if things don't go well. So he's turning his cards over here. He thinks that by offering bipartisanship, it's not so different from the border bill that Schumer used to outfox Mike Johnson, where it's saying, hey, you want compromise, here it is. Here's everything you want. Let's pass it. Let's get stuff done. Let's have a legislative win. We're giving it to you. And then they don't do it, so the bill doesn't get passed because Republicans are like, we refuse to work with Democrats. And then that implodes the intellectual credibility of the GOP, of the MAGA GOP. Of course it doesn't. It worked. That border bill didn't get passed, and Trump was able to use the border as a huge campaign issue. So history has already proven that what this guy is suggesting doesn't work. People don't blame the right parties. They don't assign the appropriate responsibility to the right person or institution.
Increase people's wages, create more middle-class jobs, raise the minimum wage, do something about child tax credit, implement the PRO Act for unions. We're going to do this stuff. We're going to work together with you to see if you really believe in working families or not. And it's up to them to decide whether or not they're going to respond in kind. Wage, do something.
So here's some specifics.
With this crazy right-wing agenda, then the people are going to see that.
Here comes some specifics.
But
Let's
we
hear.
as Democrats are saying, okay, let's try and work together to increase people's wages, create more middle-class jobs, raise the minimum wage, do something about child tax credit, implement the PRO Act for unions. We're going to do this stuff.
No, you're not, because you have no political power. You need a lot of political power to do any of the things that you just listed. And you don't even have anywhere near the political power to get those things done. And if you think you're going to get any of them done through political compromise with the MAGA GOP, you don't know the enemy. And this is what I think
we're going to work together.
I'm offering here. Why you should watch me is because I think I know the enemy better than, or as well as anyone, better than most. I think I understand the sociopathy, and guys like this are really destructive towards developing a superior strategy that we can use to actually win elections. Because if we don't start to win elections on any kind of consistent basis, this country is going to go the way of ancient Rome. That's what happens.
With you to see if you really believe in working families or not. And it's up to them to decide whether or not they're going to respond in kind.
Congressman, it's historian Doug Brinkley here. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Are you going to be going to Trump's inaugural? Will you be standing there?
Of course. Absolutely. He's the President of the United States of America.
Do you think many Democrats will boycott it? Do you have any feeling going on?
I really don't have any sense of that. I don't see as much. I was first elected in 2016 when Trump was first elected. I took office January of 2017. Trump soon thereafter, and there was a lot more of the resistance movement back then. And resistance is appropriate. I resisted him trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. I resisted him trying to deport Dreamers. We can do resistance, but it can't be all resistance. Let's fight for the people and what the people care about. And not showing up for the President of the United States inauguration is I think, an irresponsible thing. Show up. We're for America. This is an American institution. We believe in the peaceful transfer of power, and let's do our best to work together. If they won't do it, if Trump won't do it, if Mike Johnson or whoever the Republicans pick as speaker won't do it, that's their problem. We, as Democrats, should be trying to get things done on behalf of the people.
So, Congressman, you just mentioned Mike Johnson, who later today will stand for a vote to see whether he...
So, again, here we are talking about how Trump's going to be different as president than he was as a candidate. It's more insanity. The Alcoholics Anonymous definition of insanity, of course, everyone knows, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, here we go with Trump. Again, you don't think it's going to be miserable again? Now is time to sow the seeds of revolution, because we need a revolution to overcome these forces. Everything is too dirty. The money in politics is too strong. The corporate media is too defendant of the status quo. It's all one big mess, and the only thing that's going to clear it out and clean everything up is a revolution, and that's going to need to take place along generational lines.
He will remain as Speaker. What's your assessment of where that vote stands? But also, do you think, I know he's a Republican, but do you think, is he the man who should remain in that post?
Listen, I started with Mike Johnson. We both came to Congress at the same time. He's a nice man. I disagree with him on a lot of different issues, but he's a nice person. And he seems to have the support of most of his colleagues. There are other people that have 40 votes or 50 votes or 60 votes. He's the only one that seemed to be able to cobble together the group. Who knows what's going to happen with these guys? I think it would be a big mistake for them to cave in to these far right-wing Freedom Caucus people. It's one of the reasons they got nothing done over the past 2 years under Republican Congress. I don't think they should cave. I'm voting for Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker. And I think every other Democrat will as well. The Republicans, they got to get their act together.
All right, Democratic Congressman Tom Suozzi of New York. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us this morning. His opinion piece.
All right, so there's just another great example, guys, and I watch Morning Bro so you don't have to. Morning Joe. I watch Morning Joe so you don't have to, and I weigh in when they try to do these segments where it sounds like they're going to give you something worth listening to. It sounds like they're going to be like, okay, here's the game plan. Here's the strategy. Here's how the Democratic Party learns from this loss so that we can perform better next time. And then all they do is suggest compromising with Republicans. Compromising is a euphemism for capitulation. Okay? Now is not the time for the politics of compromise. Those belong to the days of the Cold War. The Cold War ended in 92. 91, actually. No, 89 when the Berlin Wall fell. So the beginning of the end of the Cold War was in 89, and it ended over the course of the 90s. That is where a lot of these guys come from. That is the framework that they are not even aware that they are using to evaluate problems and solutions. And they are so neck deep in the system that the idea of fundamentally reforming the system in a structural way is anathema to them. It's anathema to them. They don't think there's any value in that. So Stat Pat makes a great point here. What people want is against the interests of their donors. Yeah, that's right. That's fucking right. This guy is going to give you lip service and tell you all of these comforting things like, oh, we're going to do it. Yeah, we're going to do it. Then it's time to do it, and they don't do it. And then they act as if they did. The best part's going to be with all of the stuff that Biden passed is now going to benefit all these red states, and then the red state politicians are going to take credit for it. That's really what I'm looking forward to the most. All right, that'll do it today for Morning Bro. I am going skiing, so I'm going to try and stay connected through Stat Pat's channel. Please check him out if you haven't already, Stateless Patriot. He's easy to find on YouTube. So for him and this edition of Morning Bro, Friday, January 3rd, I am your host, Dieter McBusiness, reminding you that you don't get change in America by asking nicely. I have got a new essay coming out next week on why Kamala lost that I think you'll find very interesting. Thanks again. Bye-bye.